Welcome to this deep dive explainer. I'm so thrilled you're here with us today. Look, we're going to completely cut through the science fiction tropes, the Hollywood blockbusters and all that endless hype, to reveal what artificial intelligence actually is, where it came from, and exactly how it works. We're going to strip away the magic and just look at the cold, hard logic.
To kick things off, I want you to just consider a really fundamental question. Can a machine think like us? I know, it sounds like some modern philosophical debate, right? But this question actually anchors everything we're talking about today in Alan Turing's groundbreaking premise all the way back in 1950. It's known as the imitation game. He challenged us to consider that, hey, if a machine can behave in a way that is literally indistinguishable from a human, well, maybe it can be considered intelligent. It's the question that sparked a total revolution.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to hit the birth of AI, strong, weak, and generative AI, how the machine actually learns, its impact on our society, the economic and legal hurdles, and finally the ethics and the future.
Section 1. The birth of artificial intelligence. Let's look at the historical roots.
So, despite what the latest headlines might make you feel, AI isn't some sudden magical occurrence that just popped out of nowhere. Let's trace this journey. It really begins in 1936 when Alan Turing introduced his foundational theories on computability. By 1950, he proposed the famous Turing test. But the real christening, that happened in 1956 at the Dartmouth Conference. That's where John McCarthy officially coined the term artificial intelligence. Now, for a long time, it was mostly theoretical. But fast forward to 1982, and boom, we see the first major commercial success. It was a system called R1, and it was used by digital equipment to configure computer orders. This wasn't just a science experiment anymore, folks. R1 actually ended up saving the company $40 million a year. These theories had finally evolved into tangible, highly profitable industrial applications.
Moving right along to Section 2, strong, weak, and generative AI. Let's define the terms.
Now, what's really interesting here is how we have to contrast fantasy with reality. The movies love to depict strong AI, right? Artificial general intelligence, with actual self-awareness. But that remains purely theoretical. Our current reality is what's called weak AI. But hey, don't let the name fool you. These systems are highly specialized powerhouses. They absolutely dominate specific tasks, like medical diagnostics or complex logistics, but they do it entirely without possessing actual human consciousness.
Now, within this current reality, a massive breakthrough has occurred, and that is generative AI. For decades, AI was mostly discriminative. That basically means its job was to look at data and identify patterns, like, recognizing a cat in a photo. But generative AI, utilizing models like GPT-4 or DALL-E, actually learns the probabilities of data and uses that knowledge to create entirely new original content. It completely shifted the machine from being just a fast reader to an active creator of text, images, and video. It's a real game changer.
Section 3. How the machine learns. Let's get into the mechanics.
So, how exactly does a machine learn to do all of this? Well, this brilliantly illustrates the diverse ways machines acquire knowledge. We generally see three distinct training methods. First, there's supervised learning, which utilizes perfectly labeled datasets. Second, unsupervised learning. This is where algorithms are just unleashed on raw, unlabeled data to autonomously map out hidden patterns. And finally, reinforcement learning. This is a super complex trial and error system governed by digital rewards. It's famously the method used to train systems like AlphaGo.
But here's the thing. Building these huge models from scratch takes an unbelievable amount of data and computing power. Like truly mind-boggling amounts. That's where fine-tuning comes in. Instead of training a new AI from absolute zero, developers take a massive pre-trained model and fine-tune it with a smaller, highly specific dataset. This incredibly clever process allows companies to take a general AI and adapt it to become a highly specialized expert in fields like medicine or corporate finance. And it saves vast amounts of time and computational resources.
Which brings us to Section 4. The impact on our society. Let's talk about real-world applications.
Okay, now that we've got the mechanics down, let's look at how deeply embedded AI already is in our modern infrastructure. In banking, it's detecting fraud, and believe it or not, that practice actually started way back in 1987. Out on our roads, it's powering the vision systems for autonomous driving. Over in entertainment, AI is projected to contribute to or even replace up to 50% of video game development tasks by 2030. We're talking about handling things like storyboarding and animation. And out in agriculture, we are already seeing the algorithmic management of crops and resources. It is everywhere.
Let's move to healthcare and see how this builds into something truly life-saving.
The investment here is just staggering, and for very good reason. AI is now being used to interpret complex medical imaging, quickly evaluating the severity of strokes or analyzing angiographies. Get this, it's even analyzing EKGs to predict adverse cardiac events weeks before they even happen. No way, right? But it's true. Through multimodal symptom analysis, AI is helping diagnose everything from Parkinson's progression to sleep disorders. It is acting as a massive aid to doctors and totally enhancing elderly care.
Section 5. Economy and legal challenges. Time to look at the financial and legal hurdles.
With such pervasive applications come massive, and I mean massive financial stakes. Just take a look at this number, $25.2 billion. According to Stanford University's AI Index report, this was the global investment in the AI sector in 2023 alone. To put that into perspective, that is nearly 9 times the investment we saw in 2022. That's right, 9 times. Let this serve as a serious wake-up call regarding the sheer, unstoppable economic momentum behind artificial intelligence.
And bringing the focus more locally, the estimated Italian AI market size for 2025 sits at 1.8 billion euros. That represents a 50% growth from the previous year, which is fueled largely by the absolute explosive demand for generative AI and hybrid machine learning projects. The financial incentive to develop these systems is absolutely undeniable.
Yet this giant economic boom is exposing some pretty massive cracks in our legal frameworks. Consider the fascinating mini-narrative of the DABUS patent saga. So Dr. Stephen Thaler created an AI named DABUS, right? And this AI autonomously generated a completely new invention. Thaler filed for a patent, but he named the AI as the sole inventor. The result? Well, courts in the UK, the US, and the European Patent Office all firmly rejected it. They ruled that an inventor, by strict legal definition, must be a natural human being. It's a total head-on collision between our rigid, human-centric property laws and these new autonomous machine creations.
But wait, the legal debate is far from over. Look at this incredibly recent Italian precedent. For the Fusion 43 patent application filed in 2025, the applicant actually tried to list AI as a co-inventor. But in April 2026, the examiner officially rejected this, stating it's simply incompatible with current laws that require a physical person. This specific case is forcing a direct, highly visible legal debate right now in Europe. It perfectly shows how our current laws are seriously struggling to keep up with the reality of this technology.
Finally, Section 6. Ethics and the future. The big philosophical questions.
So, the crucial point is, when we zoom out, we really have to look at the sweeping societal risks. While the benefits are vast, the dilemmas brought on by AI advancement are incredibly serious. We're facing algorithmic bias and what's known as black box opacity, where we literally can't fully trace how the AI is even making its decisions. Then there's the massive environmental footprint regarding the immense energy and water used by data centers. We also absolutely must consider the potential for algorithms to shape consumer and voter preferences. And of course, we cannot ignore the human element here, the digital click workers who are often utilized in developing nations to label the massive amounts of data that trains these very systems.
Because of all these dilemmas, global governments and even religious leaders are scrabbling to create a framework of what they call algorithmics. This push for regulation really started gaining traction with the 2017 Aslamar Principles. It then continued with the Rome Call for AI Ethics, which actually brought together leaders of major world religions and tech giants. And most recently, at the February 2025 Paris Summit, 61 countries signed a declaration demanding AI that is inclusive, sustainable, and transparent. They are pushing to prioritize people and the planet over pure technological acceleration. As we look back at the incredible history, the sheer mechanics, the massive amounts of money, and the deep moral dilemmas of this technology, I want to leave you with a powerful, provocative thought to ponder. As these systems become so deeply integrated into our healthcare, our legal systems, and just our daily choices, are we shaping AI, or is AI starting to shape us? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking the big questions, and I'll see you next time.